So, welcome and welcome to Heart to Heart. How are you this morning?
Oh, well, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. Well, it's the morning for me at 7 a.m., but I know for you it's a little bit later.
Yeah, morning-ish. It's 1 p.m. right now.
Okay, good. The first question we have is always related to how did you come up with your name, Shady Bunny?
Yeah, that's a question I get a lot. I think pretty much every streamer does. It's nothing too fancy. I used to play World of Warcraft, and that just happened to be the name of the final character at the time, which I took with me in another game. And then you kind of just stick with that, and then you're like, oh, let me make a Twitch, and then that's the name. So
Good.
that's essentially it. Not a crazy background story.
Okay, good. Um, how long have you been playing Hearthstone?
Since Goblins versus Gnomes, so I don't know, 8 years or something. It's quite a
Okay.
while.
Yeah, definitely. And what got you to play Hearthstone?
That's actually well, maybe not a funny story, but I got into playing Hearthstone. I started off streaming League of Legends, and I developed some sort of RSI, repetitive strain injury. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but the easiest way to explain it is just repetitive strain injury, and that prevented me from playing League of Legends, which then got me into playing Hearthstone because that was a lot easier on your wrists, which was the issue for me. Now, even that was a little bit too much, so I couldn't really play Hearthstone, but I could do co ops. So I could play together with other people, and they could share the screen or whatever. We did a lot of different things. We even used like Team Viewer, where they piloted on my end, right? But they used their mouse. And then I realized, hey, I could actually continue streaming despite the injury. And luckily, that got resolved after 3 years. I was able to play on my own again. But then, I enjoyed Hearthstone so much. It's not like it's all right, guys, goodbye. I'm going back to League. So yeah, that was definitely a bit of a twist of fate. I would not have ended up in Hearthstone, I think, without that. Even though have been playing card games for a very long time, I was having a good time in League of Legends at the time.
So it's very circumstantial.
Yeah. It was not a very, I guess in a way it was a deliberate and planned move, but because of the situation. And it's not something that I saw coming a few months before that.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about before Hearthstone then. So what was your situation before Hearthstone when you were
Uh,
playing League?
yeah. So what do you mean, like by situation? Because obviously
So
there's
you
a lot
were
of
you
ways.
were playing, but I'm guessing not just for fun. Were you streaming? Were you
Right. Yes, I stream. So I've been streaming for about a decade.
Okay.
So a while now.
So you weren't the first one to stream video games.
Sorry, say again.
You were in like the first generation of people streaming. Like,
Oh, no. I definitely got into streaming when I saw other people streaming.
okay.
I was not a pioneer, but I've been on the platform for a while now. But yeah, yeah, I remember those old League of Legends streams and watching Afu's arena streams. Like that was exciting. Yeah, a long time ago. Long time ago.
Okay, good. And so, when you were streaming League of Legends, so what did you decided on making this your career at that point?
Well, I've always loved playing games, and I think when it was about 15 or so, I had this idea, man, wouldn't it be great to actually make a living by being good at video games? And at that point, it was very just a floating idea, something like that I'd like to do, but I had no real plan. I did not know how I was going to do it. But oftentimes, I feel like that's what you need, right? You just need that idea, and then you'll fill in the blanks later as long as you're committed enough, right? As long as you're willing to put in enough work, that definitely ups your chances, right? Uh, yeah, I guess that's how I sort of rolled into it. I started out working part time. I worked at a gym and I was then juggling the streaming with that. And at some point, I just made the leap and said, okay, well, I'm making a little bit of an income here. Definitely not enough yet to call it a fully, a career or a very reliable job. But I felt like I had put in enough time that going full time would allow me to get there, and luckily it did.
Nice, nice. And so at the gym, what was your what were you were like a private trainer?
Yes, well, not private in that gym, was the group sessions, but yes, it was a
Oh,
personal trainer. My title.
which type of class were you teaching?
Oh, so the chain of gyms was called Fit Class, and they had this model where you would come in and it would be a structured class where, let's say, you'd have 20 people or so. You'd have half of them on cardio machines, half of them on weight training resistance machines, and they would essentially just follow this, um, I guess, parkour where, okay, you do the chest press, then you would, let's say, you do a lat pull down just for your back, etc. Same thing with the cardio. People would go on the treadmill, and then most of the time they wouldn't switch, right? They would just do their class on the treadmill and then swap. So essentially, you'd have the class was split up in three parts. So you'd go do your cardio, you'd go do your resistance training, and then the last part was extra core exercises. So that part was the most active for me. So I kind of just I'm there to make sure nobody does anything dumb with the weights, right? When they're doing the resistance part. But then the most active part was the third one where I'm just essentially I was like the teacher, right? I do the exercise for your core, and then everyone else does it with me, and then I just go to the next, etc., etc.
Nice. It's a bit like Orange Theory. I don't know if you know that.
No,
No,
not
okay.
familiar with it.
It's from Australia, but yeah, we have some in Montreal too. Um, but so yes, I've been to a gym that does that type of training. Cool. That was nice. Um,
Yeah, talking about it, it's like, wow, that's a while ago.
yeah,
hadn't really thought about that in a while.
yeah. Did you keep the training going after that? Are you like very active still?
Yeah, yeah. I like to work out every day.
At what time do you usually work out?
4:30 in the morning.
4:30.
Yeah, yeah. I get up early because I've got a daughter and she wakes up at 6. So pretty much if I want to get stuff done, I do it before she wakes up, so that by the time she wakes up, I'm ready to take care of her. We get her ready now for school. She started school a week ago,
My
and then
God.
after,
So she's like
yeah,
5.
no, 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 kindergarten, right? So she's 2.5.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah,
Us
yeah.
in
Sorry, I guess when I say school, I should say it's not really. I guess you call it preschool? I'm not sure, but kindergarten, right? That's the term. Yeah, they can start at two. So she's really like at the beginning, right? Like 2.5 is the real minimum age.
okay,
But
good.
that's yeah. So that's essentially it. So if I want to reliably get a workout in every day, it's pretty much got to be before she wakes up. Yeah.
And what's your usual routine when you work out?
So right now, like, so it always varies a little bit depending on how much time I have. So what I love to do if I have all the time in the world is to just in the morning do my cardio session and do core and all kind of stabilizing exercises. So I'll start with 40 minutes of cardio, just some zone 2 training, which is essentially at a pace where you can talk but you don't want to. Right. So you're not completely drained, but you're also not super super chill. The follow up then is to do all kinds of exercises to help me with all kinds of issues I've accrued over the years. So just to stabilize, um, like I've had God, what's that called in English? It's a like a hernia, but not in your back. So it's just like something's bulging out at the front, and then they have to go in and close it up and blah 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 blah. So just to stabilize muscles around that area. So it's really these uh, dad exercises, I'd say, where you're just like moving your legs in a way with no extra weight, but you're using these bands to sort of get your legs together to get a little bit of resistance, right? You're
Yeah.
just like pushing against that. Um, so it's stuff of that, and then like low weights for my shoulders because I have this. Yeah, we just go into my medical stuff, I guess. Like my joints are too flexible, so I need to make sure that they're very secure through the muscle around it. Otherwise, I get all kinds of injuries. So I've had so many things like broken, dislocated, blah blah blah. So in order to prevent that, I need to have enough muscle mass around that to lower the chance. So
So
yeah, it's just like yeah, go ahead.
so you're hyper flexible.
Yes, at least in yeah for joints.
Okay. Are you
So
doing lots of split and
yeah, when I so that's a thing where if you don't keep that up, right? That's not just joints. When you're that's a lot of muscle and stuff as well, ligaments, etc. But yeah, when I was 12 years old, I could do a full split where you just go to the ground. Which yeah, that was fun to do in school. People would be like, "What the fuck?" So I used to show off with that, but as
Nice.
you yeah. So now I'm flexible, I'd say, especially for I guess a gamer. I sit in my chair a lot still. Obviously, I like to work out, but I still sit in the chair a lot. So for someone that has a sedentary job, I guess I'm pretty flexible, but I can't do like full splits anymore. So because that would require a lot of maintenance to make sure everything stays very flexible. But yeah, joints, I can. It's not like I can like do crazy things with my fingers. You see people who have just no resistance here; they can pull their finger all the way back. But it's just like I can move my knee joint more than you should. I can move my shoulder more than you should. So, anyways, the long-winded explanation as to why I do those sort of more dorky exercises, I guess we'll call them like that. So when I can, right, in the afternoon, I would love to go to the gym and then do some actual heavy weight training where I could do, like a bench press or deadlift, squat, etc. But depending on the schedule, I don't really get to the gym if I have a lot to do. So these last few months, I have too much to do and I can't do it. So that's more something that great if I can add that, but I like to make sure I can at least do the cardio and all the stabilizing exercises for my joints.
Good. And so if you're at the gym at 4:30, do you like
Oh.
wake
That's at home. That's at home. So I have a
on,
like a
well, yeah, yeah, yeah. So a
oh,
home gym. So but you need to wake up like at least sometimes before going to the gym. So you wake up at like 4?
no, I just like this is my routine. I guess I'm at my gym at 4:35.
Okay,
I
okay,
wake up
okay.
at 4:30.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And you don't even like drink coffee or anything before going to the gym?
No, I like to have an hour and a half to 2 hours between waking up and consuming caffeine. That's just something that helps me stay sharper later in the day. I notice that if I drink coffee straight away after working out, I am gonna crash somewhere in the afternoon where I feel like I either want to take a nap or I'm like not focused. And I find that if I delay the intake of caffeine, I don't have that effect. And it also doesn't mess with my sleep too much because I like to, cut off the caffeine in time as well. But yeah, I drink that's called AG1. It's this vitamin drink, all kinds of fiber, etc., whatever. So that I do consume upon waking up, but the rest I just start working out straight away.
It's like a pre-workout?
Not really. A pre-workout is like jacked with caffeine,
Oh
and
yeah,
I
you're
guess maybe
right.
aminos, etc. This is really so. I stumbled upon that because I think I just had some muscle cramps or whatever. And I was like, oh, maybe I need some magnesium or whatever. And then I just said, okay, let me just get this formula which has everything there so that you're just not deficient in anything. And usually the excess, you just pee it out anyway. So I was like, okay, whatever. I don't have to think about it then, right? I don't need like 20 bottles of like, oh, let me just take my vitamins here and there. So just a very user friendly vitamin slash probiotic slash whatever drink.
Good. Good, good, good. Um, okay. So you you wake up, you go to the gym, and after that you stream.
Yeah. So like I said, at around 6, my daughter will wake up. So then It's taking care of her together with my wife, right? So just making sure that she gets some breakfast and she gets dressed and all the stuff we have to do before she goes to school. Luckily, my wife can take her to school, so I can start streaming at about 7 a.m., where my wife can then, handle it from there. I I do like to have a little bit of a pre-stream thing where I so after the joint exercises, right? So we're there. I take care of my daughter. Then before I stream, I do this breathing exercise. It's Wim Hof. I don't know if you're familiar with.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, awesome guy, right? And I stumbled upon him like years ago, but only now, the last few months, I very consistently do it, where I feel like it's just part of my day and it's very enjoyable. So it's just a breathing exercise to calm you down, and like maybe not even just calm you down, but just very very relaxed and energized. If that state sounds weird to describe, you're both relaxed and energized, but that's how it feels. You're calm, but you do feel like you can, really tackle your day well. And then I like to take a cold shower, which is sorry, I'm like very particular about things. Very so tell me if I'm describing too much and
No,
not.
no, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I guess it makes your job easier in a way. I just don't have to pry it out of me. So the cold shower, that that just helps with my I suppose it fulfills multiple roles. One is I really like doing something I don't really enjoy because it gives me that feeling of, okay, I conquered this, and that makes other things later in the day easier. If that makes sense, where you say, okay, if I can do this, I can do the rest. The other is just purely scientific, where you just get an increase in dopamine. And dopamine is sort of the molecule of motivation, at least the way how I understand it. I'm not a scientist. I can't tell you the full explanation about it, but I do feel way more motivated after the cold shower. I definitely feel like I can get more things done. So I find that very helpful before my stream. And then, yeah, 7 a.m. I try to start streaming.
Good. And then, do you only stream Hearthstone?
I stream Hearthstone, and then, generally speaking, unless it is sponsored content, I don't stream it. But I currently have a very like long-term Genshin sponsorship, so I've been streaming a lot of Genshin Impact as well.
Okay. Okay. I think I saw you stream Genshin at one point. um, okay, that makes sense. And so around 1 p.m. you stop streaming.
Yeah, usually it'll be well, again, it depends a little bit due to the Genshin sponsorship. Once again, if I'm not doing any kind of sponsored content, it'll be around noon. So I'll have about 5 hours where I feel really good, where I'm like, okay, I can put in enough good plays that I'm having a good time. I would stream a bit longer maybe if I feel like I could just keep going, but it's around 5 hours where I feel that drop off and I'm just like, okay, not that focused anymore. And, I'd rather stream a little less than crash and burn for another 2 hours and, just stream for the sake of streaming. But with Genshin, it's not a game I need to be super focused for. So I like the that makes the days not super streamlined, and that's also the reason I'm not really going to the gym too much right now, because the days it's just at 3 p.m. my daughter finishes school, so essentially I have between ending the stream and 3 to do extra stuff, and a lot of the time because of the Genshin sponsorship I might end at 2 p.m. or so. So then it's I have an hour to maybe eat some food, do some dishes or whatnot, and then go get my daughter.
Eat some food. That's very interesting. We're gonna get to the food section of the interview later on. I have lots of questions related to that, as you probably know. So, okay. So I mean, so it's very. I would say it's very like scheduled. You don't really. You. Well, I think it's very like related also to the mindset of training and like with being like a PT before a private trainer, like that goes together, I feel.
Yeah, the structure I find that even though, so I have this quote that I love. It's through discipline comes freedom, and it sounds a bit paradoxical at first because you think if you have more discipline, you have less freedom to do what you want. But by having the discipline to do the things you need to do, you have the freedom to do the things you want to do as well. Where you have the discipline to work out, you then have the freedom to actually use your body the way you would want to. You have the discipline to go to bed early, you then have the freedom of actually having more time the day afterwards, etc. So I do find that even though it's quite structured, and for some people it might sound horrible, right? That existence of, oh, everything is scheduled. I find it more fun because I feel like I actually get to do more because it's planned. But yeah, I get that it's definitely not for everyone.
Well, definitely. But it's good that you're able to do it. And do you think that having a daughter helped you out being like even more good with your schedule?
Yes, for sure.
And
It's
also, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I would say there's accountability
yeah,
because you if you mess up, it doesn't impact just you, right? It's impacting other people now.
yeah, definitely. You look pretty young to have a daughter.
I'm 32, so
Okay, so you're a year older than me.
yeah, it's yeah. I think especially in our space, it's not too common, right? Where you see like, oh yeah, I have a kid, but it's yeah. I mean, I start counting in my head as well. Like, okay, when she graduates, it'll be this. It's like, yeah, I feel like it's a good age. I think around 30, you feel like you have enough experience that you try to avoid, you're never gonna do a perfect job no matter what, right? Like you're always gonna traumatize your kid in some way, I usually say, but at least you can avoid some maybe more obvious things when you're just a bit older. But then I want to be able to play with my kids, especially when they get older, so I can still do sports with them, etc. So yeah, I yeah, it's maybe a bit weird, but I think it's a good age for me.
Um, and do you want more children?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, good. Well, I hope this. I hope this is going to happen soon enough for you guys.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We've been working on it. Like, there's been some hiccups here and there. We don't have to go too much in detail, but it's definitely not. Uh, it would not be an issue if my wife would be pregnant all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, fertility is a very, very sensible subject, and a lot of people go through a lot of hurdles. So um, I I do understand that. um, okay, so um, now let's go back a little bit more into video games. So, what do you like the most about Hearthstone?
I find it a great vehicle for what I enjoy, right? It's improving on processes. It's enjoying that, okay, we can do it better. How can we do it better? Let's see, what if we do this? What if we do that? Maybe there's a little something here that I can improve. So for me, it's a lot about, if you're an incredibly efficient player, you can make so many different situations work. I think Hearthstone's a great game for that, where at the surface level, it looks so incredibly random. And you're like, oh, wow. I mean, well, what if this minion, talking about battlegrounds right now. So, what if this minion went left or right? I mean, that's not skill or this or that. But then you see the top players and they're always just winning and they're at the top of the leaderboard. So, obviously, by just being so consistent and by making the right decision time and time again, you just steer the game into a really good direction, even though you have moments where you're not getting lucky, right? Everyone has good luck and bad luck moments. So yeah, I really enjoy that ability to put in a lot of work and then make right decision after right decision and watching the situation, move in your favor.
Yeah, for sure. And like, if you could compare like the previous game you were playing into the one you're playing now, which is very different but has similarities in some ways. um, what would you say are like the pros and cons between like both games that you stream and in the past?
In general, the big picture is similar, where you have your processes, you have your decision making, and that is going to result in better outcomes over time if you work on that, if you make a better process. The obvious difference with League of Legends is that especially as you get a bit older, it's harder to have fast reactions, and there's just a limitation based on your ability to execute. Now, when I played League, I was pretty good still. Masters was not a thing yet, so you went from Diamond straight to Challenger, and I was in that 90 plus LP region where you were sort of pushing for Challenger. So when I got my injury, I was Diamond 1, which was good at the time. Not the best, but good. So no doubt, I think if I would have continued to play now 10 years later, maybe I could keep up that level just because of more knowledge, and I guess also maybe having more stability where you are not going to have a rager on your team and antagonize him more, because obviously when you're younger it's a little more inviting to be like, hey, that person's being an ass, let's be an ass back at them, instead of just saying, hey, managing your teammates is part of the process. That's how I would think right now. It's like, hey, this person is obviously having a bad time. Let's not make it worse for them, right? Let's just calm them down, or at least not antagonize them further. But yeah, that would be the big difference, I would say. It's the added skill component of you got to be fast, your hand-eye coordination, etc. It's just the yeah, that's the biggest difference. So I do like Hearthstone a lot in that respect, where I feel like I can do that a lot longer at a higher level.
Good. And okay, so in Hearthstone particularly, like there's a lot of component that has art on it, like the design of the cards, the hero, and like there's multiple skin for heroes. So are you a fan of art in the game?
Overall, that is something I don't care about a lot, but then there are moments where something catches my attention and I like it. So, for instance, my favorite bartender is Dr. Boom, because he has these funny quotes, and I just like the way he talks and the interactions. There are certain skins, like there is a certain test skin I like, where she's um, like a hunter type thing. She has this outfit that makes you think she's this werewolf hunter or whatnot. So there are certain things that catch my attention and that I like, but I would say, especially compared to your average player, I don't really care that much.
Okay. Okay, good to know. Um, and so, do you play with with your sound on in the game?
Sorry, do I play with what?
The sound on.
Oh yeah. The sound. That's the thing. Like the Doctor Boom quotes, right? They're
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
I know that Collins plays without sound all the time, and I'm just like, wow, there's so many good quotes from arena cards as well back in the day, where you would play the card and I would just know what they would say, and I would just automatically say it, right? There's probably some stuff now that I might have forgotten, but subconsciously it's still in there, right? Like just because I've played the card hundreds, maybe thousands of times, and I've heard that voice line over and over. So yeah, I definitely play with the sound on.
So, you're a good friend with Collins, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yes, I remember from his art to heart.
Yeah, we are incredibly different, but we have a great relationship.
Good. And so, where are you situated? Like, where do you live?
I live in Belgium. Born and raised, always lived here.
Okay. And if you could live anywhere in the world, um, where would you live if it was in Belgium?
So this question is a little bit, I suppose it depends on the conditions, because I have a wife and a daughter,
Mm-hmm.
so they obviously get a say in that. And I know my wife definitely wants to live in Belgium. So I don't feel too tied to Belgium. I definitely don't mind it here. My instinct would be somewhere in the States where I I would have to have, I guess, a little bit more information. But from what I hear, Austin is a pretty good place as well. It used to be Cali, I suppose, where I would want to go. But then the more I hear about Austin, it would probably be there.
Okay, good. So you like the hot and dry summer?
It's the climate maybe a little less. I'm someone who is perfectly fine with bland weather where it's just like okay, right? It's not freezing cold, but it's also not scorching hot. So
Not like in Canada.
yeah, I will also say I am maybe very ignorant. No, I'm definitely very ignorant when it comes to climates and understanding. Okay, here you have that kind of temperature. So maybe when I was saying where do you want to live, it's more about the culture, the people, the stuff that's available there, etc.
Okay. Have you traveled in your life?
Little bit here and there, not a lot. So I've been to the States twice, both on, business, I guess, but maybe not with the air quotes because it is business, but it just feels very weird to me still to say, oh, I'm there on a business trip. I've been to BlizzCon, and back in the day, I used to be on Fate Karma. It was a esport team. The we went to California as well for a sign. There was this thing where we might be affiliated with Mike Tyson, so we got to visit. I got a picture with Mike, etc. Eventually, that didn't go through, but that was another part of me visiting the States. And then
Nice.
in Europe, yeah, in Europe a little bit, just neighboring countries, Holland, France, Germany, etc.
So you've never been to Asia,
No, that's correct.
and would you be interested in visiting Asia?
Yeah, it's again one of those things where there's always something you can't do if you do something. It's like oh, would I like it? Sure, but then when and how and etc. It's especially with a young child, it's tough to travel, and that situation is hopefully not really going to change in the next few years as we want more children. So, but yeah, that's maybe something for when they're all a bit older and it's easier to travel. But yeah, sure. I think I'm a big StarCraft fan. StarCraft 2. I actually the very first game I streamed was back when um, like I started out at the very very beginning of StarCraft 2. So back when there were no expansions, no nothing, just Wings of Liberty, and that was super fun. I enjoyed that as well, and I've always sort of had that respect for, excuse me, extremely good players because again, I was a good player, low masters, but I was not a world class player, and it was very rewarding to see these uh, top notch players just execute things in because I think StarCraft in terms of a game is the perfect vehicle to just show, okay, are you really really good? Okay, show me, right? Because we can talk about Hearthstone and you could be amazing at Hearthstone, but you could still lose to someone that is less skilled than you, of course. In StarCraft, the better player is going to win so extremely often. There's some build order luck where, you can not scout and just guess what build they have and then randomly counter it and get lucky there. But that is so much more difficult. And if the player is enough better, it doesn't really matter if you counter their build, they'll still win. So yeah, maybe South Korea because that is, I guess, the hub of StarCraft 2. I remember a lot of old stuff from Brood War as well. There was a Boxer that was a very very popular StarCraft Brood War player. I watched a lot of his games and just there's this like documentary about him. Watched all of that. So I suppose if going to Asia, it'd be South Korea.
Okay, good choice. Good choice. Okay, what do you think make you? What is your valeur ajoutée? Like your little je ne sais quoi? Your added value as a streamer. Why someone would watch you more than someone else? Do you think, in your opinion?
Right. I am a very analytical player. So I've always had that approach. I've never really had to think, okay, what am I going to do to set myself apart? I think you do have to go with what is natural for you. And I think a lot of people, when they start streaming, they just say, oh, I want to build a good community. And I think that everyone indeed wants to do that. But for me, I've always sort of had that community come around me just explaining. So people that enjoy watching that kind of content kind of just forms around my streams, right? So people that have some patience that want to get better, I think, yeah, my stream is a really good place for that. I've gotten better at just being a little bit more like, okay, I'm also going to entertain. I'm going to, play for the memes sometimes. But especially when I started out, it was very cut and dry. Like, hey, we're doing this because this is the right play. We're not doing that because that is a lower win percent. Now I'm a bit more open to, okay, guys, this is too weird not to try it. Let's do this. I don't know if it's going to work, but it may be fun. Oh, let's pick this hero. It could be cool. So that has evolved over the years, but yeah, I would say that's definitely my main point is being very analytical, educational, explaining my thought process.
Yeah, well, I think that's right because I've heard a lot about you being educational, so I think you're right on. I think. And it's good to find like exactly what you're good with and being natural with it. Like I think it's it definitely shows and people can relate better to you when you're like being yourself.
Yeah, yeah,
Being
and
yeah.
yeah. I think it would be just very exhausting, right? If you have to, think about, okay, this is my angle, this is how I'm going to, um, you know, stream, I guess, right? You could just call it streaming. Uh, yeah, I think if you'd have to be super deliberate about that and always, think about. I know that there's people who have a persona when they stream, and I'm totally fine with that. Right? I don't have anything against those people. I just think that's. I guess you get used to it as well, like anything. But at least in the beginning, for me, that's I think that would be so exhausting if you're not just like, hey, this is me, and now you're watching me play. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. Okay, good. So we're getting into the food part of the interview, and this is going to be very interesting because you seem very like everything is like scheduled and organized. So I'm very, very much excited to know what goes on in a day in Shady Bunny food.
Sure, sure, sure. So, as you indeed may have guessed, my food is very structured. I usually don't eat whatever. So, this will depend as well, a little bit like I talked about. Oh, if I have this much time, etc., I will be able to go to the gym. With the food, it's not necessarily too dependent on things, but I might just do something for months and then change it up a little bit here and there. But roughly speaking, I will be on a ketogenic diet. That is not necessarily because I think keto is this must do diet or like everything else is inferior or anything like that. This just works really well for me. I feel like I have more focus. I have no real issue maintaining muscle mass, which is something that some people might fear if they go keto, right? Because they think you need the insulin to blah, blah, blah. Maybe too technical, whatever. It doesn't matter too much. But yeah, so a ketogenic diet. So that will be mainly meat, fish, eggs, that kind of stuff. So in the morning, I will have eggs, usually, God, how do you say it in English? Is it just a fried egg or the egg where the egg yolk is still intact? And then
Yeah,
instead, yeah, so not scrambled,
sunny
the
side
yolk,
up.
sunny side up. Okay. Yep. So I'll have that. Then I'll do that after my workout, right? So after stream, I'll have salmon, generally speaking, because that's also just a bit easier. That's this prepackaged smoked salmon. So I pretty much just have to take that out of the fridge, slap that on a plate, boom, we're done. So very efficient. And then in the evenings, it will usually be some kind of meat where either I will have this ground beef or steak or whatever I feel like I can prepare, like maybe some more salmon, but then a different kind of salmon where salmon I will either bake or cook or this or that. But generally speaking, it will be that ground beef because it's again pretty easy where I just throw that in the pan, heat it up a bit, and then I'll add some spinach again. But the vegetables again, that can be a broccoli, that can be maybe some mix where you would get some carrots, some bean sprouts, etc. But generally speaking, for me, food is fuel, and I like to be efficient about it where it doesn't take too long as well. So I'll usually pre-prepare the spinach where it'll be like 3 or 4 days where all I got to do is, pick salmon out of the fridge, slap that on the plate, get the spinach, and we're done. And then for the meat, it'll be, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes or so prepping that.
So you would eat smoked salmon just like that on a plate, like with
Well,
nothing
with the
else.
spinach, with the spinach. Yeah.
But like no cream cheese, no like
No, no, no. I'm lactose intolerant, so yeah, it's a bit of a weird ketogenic because I know a lot of people doing keto. They go hard on the cream and the cheese and stuff.
well, cream cheese is like usually people on keto eat lots of cream
Yeah,
cheese.
absolutely. I do have nuts, so I have almonds and pecan, the maybe some macadamias, but that's I guess my replacement. So I think a lot of people when they do keto, they have a lot of cheese. I have nuts to fill up those calories then that I don't get from the cheese.
Okay, so but I'm pretty sure there's cheese without lactose though.
Sure. My general reasoning is I don't really want to go out of my. It's the same thing with the keto stuff. Like, oh, but you can have keto pizza and you can have this and you can have that. I'm just like, okay, I just want to stay as close to basic ingredients, basic components. Um, I think it's totally. So my philosophy about food is, if it works for you, that's amazing. Keep doing it because we're all different. And if you are happy with how you function, how you feel, if you get blood work done right, is your cholesterol good, etc. If that all is good, then yeah, keep doing it for sure. So for me, it's just this thing. I feel really good when I stay away from processed foods. That doesn't mean I'll never do it, right? I'm not some kind of robot. I will. I think 2 weeks ago we went on a family trip, and then I just had some bread, etc. And I had this like a little bit of pasta with my meat, etc. So I will break keto sometimes. I will not always stay away from processed food, but the for me it's the habit. If the things I normally do are good, then it's much easier to sometimes deviate. And then sure, I mean, I'll feel a little crappy afterwards because I'm not. I think there's also a tolerance you build up. So I think if you are like with alcohol, right? Like if you drink all the time, you don't really feel that crappy after drinking. Whereas if you never drink and then you drink, you're like, oh my God, what was that? So I do think that I have a lower tolerance for maybe foods that have a little bit of a negative impact if you're very used to them. But then for me, it's like, ugh, I can really feel like I had bread, for instance. So yeah, I just like to stay away from as much processed food as possible and just get basic components, just vegetables, meat, fish, egg, very basic nuts. Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, not surprising, but interesting.
Yeah, again, right? It's not for everyone. It's but what I really enjoy is I like being able to perform at a high level, at least for me. So I'm not a robot. I like to eat like pizza and stuff? Yeah, for sure, right? It's but the way I usually look at it is, okay, do I want these 10 to 20 minutes of just pure pleasure where it tastes good? Or do I want the other 23 hours and 40 minutes to be better? And generally, when I have that decision presented to me, I'm just like, okay, that's a no brainer. I'm going to go take the whole other part of my day other than the 20 minutes of eating food. But again, sometimes I'll be on a trip or so and I'm just like, okay, I don't have to think super clearly. I don't have to have like all the energy in the world. I'll let loose a little bit and I'll have a glass of red wine or whatnot. But if I'm in my normal routine, if I'm in my normal day, I want to be able to really go all out on stream. I want to think very clearly. I want to be able to have all the energy so that I can get up in the morning. I can take care of my daughter. I can get her off school. I can still play with her. It's not like, oh, daddy's tired now or anything like that. So yeah, that's the basic philosophy behind it. And that has developed over years, of course. That is not something that, oh, let me just do that from one day to another. I remember it was years of like eating a pastry here or there and be like, why am I still doing that? I can't stop, right? But as I got older and I just did it again and again and again and again, it was just much easier for me to see like, why am I doing that? Let's just stop. Let's just only eat the things that make me feel good.
Okay, good. Um, so, I mean, being a Belgium person, um, it kind of feel that you don't drink beer.
Again, generally speaking, no, but I do have a beer I like. It's like a cherry beer.
Ooh.
It's quite funny because when you grow up, obviously you drink more, and this is sort of the more girly drink. If usually people will like the real men, they drink a lot of we call that duvel or whatnot. That's like a very strong beer, like a very high alcohol percentage. It's very bitter and all that. And I think that most people, when they get used to beer, it really just sucks at the start, and then they just suck it up, and then it starts tasting good. Kind of like coffee, where my very first coffee was like, "Ooh, that's not so good." And then you add a lot of sugar and milk and stuff. Now I drink it black and I'm totally fine with it and I enjoy it. So I think it's the same thing with beer. I just never put myself through that phase of, oh, I'm just gonna suck it up and drink the bitter beer. I was just like, hey, this cherry beer is nice and sweet and I like it. So it always stuck with me. And I like that. And I think especially with alcohol, you never drink bad alcohol, right? If you're gonna have alcohol, really enjoy it, right? Because that's something you don't want to do too often if you want to be healthy, or at the very least have high function, right? So yeah, that's my philosophy. If you're gonna have alcohol, it's gotta taste really good. You gotta have a really good time with it.
I agree. I agree 100% with the good alcohol quality. I don't agree with the amount you're drinking, but yeah. So
No, I
what?
mean, again, right? It's for if it works for you, great. Like I said, for everyone, right? Like if it works for you, amazing. Do it. Keep doing it.
When was the when was the last time you binge drink with some friends?
Oh, wow.
Like a
That must
party.
have been
Like
yeah, it must have been a wedding or something. Jesus,
yeah,
that was
that would make sense.
definitely before my daughter was born. So,
Wow.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, for me to really have a lot of drinks, like now I will have a little, a couple glasses of wine or a couple beers, but just like beer done, beer, like just, fill, refill, refill, refill. That must have been a wedding just several years ago. So, yeah, again, right? I'm human.
Wow, a couple years ago. Okay. But sometimes it could have been at Christmas, for example.
Right, 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 right. That's true. That
With
would have been,
family, with your uncles, with your
yeah, a good time. I could see that. It hasn't happened, but I could see that.
okay, okay. Could be fun. Could be. Um, okay. So I'm guessing that you don't eat a lot of cheese because you're lactose intolerant and you don't really get out of your way to find not
Yeah.
like cheese without lactose.
I had heard about the cheese question, so I was like, "Wait, that's gonna be a short segment for me because I just don't do cheese.
So, but I mean, if you could and you were not lactose intolerant,
Mm.
which cheese would you get first?
So when I was younger, I had still a lot of issues, but I did not well with lactose. Maybe other issues as well, but the um, the way it would work is that I would just have a lot of like stomach aches, etc. But I wasn't really sure what it was, so I used to eat cheese. So back when that was the case, a brie was quite nice. Like on like this crispy bread, you do some nice brie. That was a meal I enjoyed a lot.
And like if you like go crazy and decide to eat pasta once in the year, would you put Parmesan cheese on your
Yes,
pasta?
I would say again that's again before my daughter was born. But I especially shortly before my wife and I went on a trip to the coast, and there I had like this spaghetti bolognese, and that is definitely something that in my childhood and teenage years I would always have the parmesan or just scraped like cheese things on top, because that
Parmesan.
does, yeah, that gives that real added flavor, and not only the flavor, the texture changes right in your mouth. It's very enjoyable. So yes, I would say if I am going to have like a big bowl of pasta with bolognese, right, then yes, we're adding cheese for sure, because what's the point if you're not even gonna go all the way then, right, if you're gonna have it.
Wow, if you were going to eat pasta.
If I were, and that is going to probably happen, right? I say very likely at some point there's going to be some kind of event that I'm going to have a big bowl of pasta. Yeah.
Which currently has been like more than 2.5 years ago.
Yes, 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 yes.
This is fantastic. This is.
I don't know. Is it too weird, or yeah? It's just
I mean, I think there's two philosophy on food, as you mentioned. Like, if it works for you, it works for you. But it's also like you can live to eat or eat to live. Okay,
sure. Yeah.
and I definitely live to eat compared to the other way around. For me, eating is not fueled; it's just pure pleasure. So that's why I change it up every day. I try to be very, very. I never eat the same thing, or well, not like 2 days in a row. I eat the same thing sometimes in like the course of my life, obviously, but
You have a list of like, okay, never eat again. Okay,
no,
we've
no, no,
already
no,
had.
no. But
So
it
are you big into cooking then as well?
yes. Also,
Okay.
I'm not just into enjoying food. I'm also so I think it's fair if you really like food to be able to understand food and to like understand like the it's all chemical when the cooking's done, and like the timing of things. Like you can have the same ingredient and one recipe is gonna taste bad and one good, really depending on like, for example, mushrooms. Like mushroom, I feel is the most the ingredient that most people don't understand how to cook. Like sometimes like you go to a friend's house and I'm like, oh my god, you killed your mushrooms, you didn't cook them properly. Like in my head I would not say that to the person.
Your mushroom suck. Yeah.
But like it's a question of like temperature and like the amount of butter you put in, and the amount of salt to like bind them all together, and the type of salt you use, for example. Anyways, it's very much of a, I'm very invested in food and everything related to food.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense then. Right.
yes, so that's what I should stream: me eating food and cooking food. But no, it's just yeah. So it's part of like the two mentalities, like food being fueled or just like food being pleasure.
I can definitely also see myself changing in that aspect where, let's say my, hopefully in the future, children get older, right? And it matters a bit more what I'm cooking for them. Right now, my daughter's just, oh, nice, we'll have this, right? And she wouldn't really be able to appreciate if you're going all out on the cooking, right?
Of course, of
So
course.
yeah, yeah. So let's say I do, let's say there are a little bit more requests of, hey dad, we want to eat something like really good. I might get into that more, and as I understand how to prepare food better, I'll obviously have to taste more, and then maybe develop a little bit more of an appreciation for it, and maybe there's more let's say side tours into the pleasurable side of eating, as opposed to just, oh, this is my fuel for the day.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe the secret to happiness is have a little bit of both, both mentalities in one. um, but yeah, because eating for pleasure is not overeating. I must say, like it's just like finding in small quantities pleasure out of food. Because obviously everyone wants to be healthy. Okay, so we're gonna skip the top three cheeses. Therefore,
All
but
right. I thank you for your mercy. I appreciate it.
but we kind of know that brie and parmesan would be up there, and probably like mozzarella on pizza.
Yeah, the mozzarella I never. I guess it again depends on how it's prepared, I suppose, and stuff. I know I've had that and wasn't super impressed, but maybe that's you prepared a mozzarella and it's different. So
Yeah, but it doesn't taste that much mozzarella, but like it does the texture on the pizza most.
sure, okay.
So I think that's what that's what's good about it. But okay, so you're on a ketogenic diet, so clearly you don't eat fruits.
Yes, that's correct.
So if you had to pick between fruit and vegetable, I'm pretty sure you would pick vegetables.
Yes, that's an easy vegetable. Although
Um,
again, I don't have anything against fruit. I don't think it's like super unhealthy or anything. I don't think you need to gorge yourself on fruit, but if you have a piece of fruit a day, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I definitely remember the taste of strawberries, etc. So I do like strawberries. Yeah.
Good. So all the berries.
Yeah, strawberries, and I guess a good orange, like a nice orange, like the right, ripeness, and yeah, that's also quite good.
Good. So top three vegetables.
Uh, I guess spinach, broccoli, just in terms of how often I eat that and how I'm used to that and enjoy them. After that, I'm not sure. So I suppose there's cauliflower, bean sprouts. I don't know if that counts, but they're like it's nice to add them to stuff, get a little bit of that crisp in there. Carrots are nice, but a little sweet, so don't want to have like giant amount of carrots. I suppose that's up there, yeah. So I'd say it's gonna be spinach, broccoli, and then cauliflower, bean sprouts, carrots, like straggling there, fighting for the last spot.
Okay, good. Um, good. So, if you would eat a dessert, what would you go for?
Tiramisu. So that's the one where let's say my wife and I go to dinner, I'll break keto for a really good tiramisu.
That's a good one.
And again, right, there's some lactose in that as well, but that's if that's also a little bit more processed. So in terms of lactose intolerance, like raw milk would be the worst, right? That kills me. So the more processed it is, the better for my digestive system. So,
And realistically, like I don't maybe there's less amount of lactose in mascarpone, which is the component they use to make
yeah,
tiramisu. So, which is
that's
kind of
correct.
like a soft cheese.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that would make sense. A lot of cheeses don't have like lactose in them. So
Hmm.
when it's like
So if
aged,
you go there,
it's
try it.
crystallized. Anyways, I'm not gonna. So Parmesan has not a lot of lactose. I feel aged Parmesan,
So that's your recommendation as in, if you're ever feeling it, try it, see if it kills you. If not,
and you
try it
can
again.
also get like goat cheese, sheep milk cheese without lactose. In Greece, a lot of like you could get feta without lactose in them, and it would not even be written on the menu that there's no lactose, but it is lactose free.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, especially if I do start messing around more with the taste and texture, if I'm trying to prepare nice meals, I suppose cheese is an easy way to upgrade.
Okay. So if you would take out food, what would be your go to?
Chinese. I do really like a good rack of ribs, but that's just not very takeout-y. That's more, let's go to a restaurant and have a good rack of ribs. So yeah, Chinese food for takeout, ribs for going out and eating.
And it would be like beef and broccoli in Chinese food.
Well, I really like duck, so that's also very keto friendly with high fat content. They also have ribs usually, but it's not like the same feeling. It's you just have like yeah, you're not digging into a rack or anything like that. Um, well, I guess for the most part, it depends a little bit. If I'm going to break keto, then there are all kinds of extra options with rice. Right, I don't know how that's called in English or if it's the same. It's babi panggang. It's this dish. It's pork and it has a little bit of orange flavor, a little sweet, some vegetables in there as well. Usually little carrots and all that. But I'll have that with rice. So if I'm breaking keto, that dish with rice. But generally speaking, a normal takeaway order would be either some duck or some ribs or maybe an omelet that is well prepared, something with chicken or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. Um, okay, so the ketogenic, like, I'm rethinking my question now because I don't want
Oh,
to ask you sweet and savory, for example. I know it's going to be savory. I know it's going to be. Okay, no, if you would cook a romantic dinner to your wife, what would you cook her?
ooh, well, to be romantic, I would take her. I would either get takeout or would take her out to dinner because that would be a lot nicer for her. Let's say you lock me up in the kitchen. I'm forced, right? This is like, all right, make it
Yeah.
work. Yeah, so I'll just remove that option, right? So, God, I mean, I'd have to think on the spot here. So, what would I make? Mm, I mean, I do cook steak pretty well. So that is one thing where you kind of have to, if you're eating a lot of steak, then you don't want to, eat bad steak the whole time, especially if you're paying some money for it. It would really suck. So I guess it would be a steak, and then I would try to make a good sauce with that is probably easier with some assistance, right, where a lot of the time it's just okay, cook this, add some water, keep stirring, etc. Like a pepper cream sauce, she would enjoy that. And I'm trying to think what I'm adding on the side there. Either probably some green beans, um, but not like, I don't know how you say it in English, but it's still in the like it's not beans already out of the vegetable thing. Like it's like, yeah,
Yeah, the string
long,
beans.
yeah,
String.
just green beans. Okay.
Green beans,
Yeah,
string beans.
string beans. Okay,
Yeah.
sure, that one. Yeah, when it comes to food, as you can see, my vocabulary is not that impressive because I don't think about it a lot. Uh, and I guess,
Noted.
yeah, 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 that's a weak spot. Definitely a weak spot. Uh, yeah, and I guess then some either air fried fries or yeah, we don't even have like a deep fryer, so air fried fries. That would probably be the dish I would hope to woo her with. Yeah.
Yeah, well, air fryer is quite good. It really does the job. Okay, so my last question related to food is, well, okay, two related to food. Um, how much coffee do you drink in a day?
So I measured that in terms of the caffeine content, as maybe not surprising. So it's for a daily amount, I'll max out at 300 milligrams. So whatever that translates into, that you put into the, I have a drip coffee, so I will add um, about a liter of water. So the coffee itself is not too strong. I like to be able to sip on it throughout my morning, where it's not like, espresso shot where, oof, let's go. So it's spread out over those, say, 5 hours of streaming. I will just sip some coffee, not too strong, and maxing out at a 300 milligram for the day.
How do you calculate that though?
Oh, so that is, well, again, that is very, very crude, very, very rudimentary. So if you were to actually measure the content and be very, very precise about it, it would probably be wrong. But I was thinking, okay, I would just go off the caffeine content that's in the coffee itself per gram, and then I just measure that on a scale. Because I don't do that every morning, of course, but I know roughly how much is in each scoop, and then I just add 5 scoops of that. And then that's very I mean, I would assume that if anything, it just gets diluted more, and I have less caffeine than the 300. So that's generally how I would go about it. I just looked up the caffeine content of that specific coffee, and then just going off the weight of the coffee itself. That's in the drip coffee.
Okay, so you make the coffee and then you add like hot water to it?
Oh, so it's a drip. So yeah, you just put
Okay, so you don't add like extra because you said like a liter of water
Oh
after.
right, yeah. So you just have a regular drip coffee machine. So you just
Okay.
put the 5 scoops in, you put the liter water in, and voila, there you have. It's a liter of coffee that comes out. Yep.
Okay, okay. Not like after making the coffee.
Oh, not diluted after. No, 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 no.
Okay,
But I mean, I guess that could have been an interpretation because I did say I do like it not
okay.
that
Yeah.
strong. That's
I
absolutely.
was like that must taste like
That
not
tastes like water. Yeah, coffee water. Crazy.
transparent coffee. Okay, good. And if you had to pick between wine and beer, which one would you pick?
I suppose beer. Yeah, that cherry beer I
Okay.
would enjoy more.
Okay, good. So we do have chat questions. Let me go. Okay, we have 8 chat questions, and then you're off the hook.
Well, I'm having a good time, so really, don't mind.
Good. Do you think the current pool of minion in is a good pool of minion to build the future BG on?
I assume that they will probably have another rework at some point because we had the first minion pool for a very long time before we had the massive rework because we've had one massive rework before, and this is the second massive rework where I would say this one's even bigger, probably the biggest patch we've had so far. So I think we're going to see this pool get reworked again in the future, whether it is a great pool or not, just because of how it adds longevity to the game, it shakes things up. Now, when it comes to pure, okay, what is my preference? At the moment, I like the previous pool more, but that's also because I haven't been doing stellar in this one. So a lot of it is going to be skewed. I know that I'm going to be biased because it's so much easier to love something when you're crushing it and you like, obviously, this rewards skill. I'm doing great. Yeah, I try to be very aware of that. So, yeah, completely biased. I was doing amazing on the previous one and I haven't quite figured this one out yet. So, yeah, that's my honest answer there.
Good, good, good. What minions would you like to be added or removed from the current pool?
Which minions would I like added? So I really liked old Manted Queen. So Manted Queen got reworked where she no longer has poison. It's now venomous, and she can't adapt Divine Shield. I am fine with what we have right now, though, in her, so it's not like a super deal breaker. What did I really, really like? Um, Round Shaker, I thought was a very fun card that's now no longer in. We had Eliza, which I liked, but Eliza kind of got killed off when they removed Khadgar. So I guess Eliza Khadgar enjoyed being able to build that composition, the Scallywag. I'm trying not to go like too crazy in depth here, right? But maybe there's one more really fun unit I'm missing. Um, Honestly, I usually, when this question happens, I say, okay, chat, what do I miss? Because chat knows, right? I just have cards and I say, oh, I love playing with this card. It's so good. So chat will generally throw some answers at me. But those two at the very least. Cards we have right now that I don't like. Generally, I'm a very easygoing person. I very rarely say, oh, this has to go. But I suppose Rylak is the beast that procs battle cries into combat, and I just don't like that concept because it allows you to do things that shouldn't be possible. So, for instance, there is this build where you play Rylak and Felemental next to it, and you just get, like 50-50 minions in the shop. So you can triple a Baron, and it's like 150 Baron, and then you can make big ass Selfless, or you can just buy a big Cleave or whatnot. So I just don't think the game was ever intended to be played like that. You know, battle cry should be a one time only, not oh keep milking this battle cry, because there's some really dumb things you can do with making a golden Murasant and then proccing a golden Murasant over and over and over. I've had that in a game, and I've played I know over 50 triples that game, and it was just like this can't
50
be.
triple.
Yeah, easy, right? Because okay, so what I had on the
Wow.
board, so yeah, now this becomes insane when you think about it. So you have Rylak, and it's a beast, so it can have reborn. So it dies, comes back, procs again. So we already have that, right? So two procs. You have a golden Murasant. That means that you're getting two golden cards in your hand. Okay, now let's add a golden Brand to that. That means that each instance of the Rylak will give you three cards. So we have a golden Bran, a golden Rylak, which now gives you double that, right? So it doubles from the Rylak, triples from the Bran. So essentially, the outcome is you have a handful of golden cards every time. So you end your turn, you have the fight, you start your turn, full hand of golden cards. And I just don't think that should ever be possible. Like, yeah, it's a high roll. Yeah, it's insane. It's hard to make a golden Murasant. It's really hard to make a golden Brand. But I just don't think it should be possible. I don't think you should be able to reuse battle cries over and over and over. So again, maybe a little bit too in-depth of an answer, but
No, no,
yeah,
that's good.
yeah, I do not like Rylak. I think the concept is not good for battlegrounds.
Okay, good. Thanks. Um, what made him decide to become a content creator for Battlegrounds only, not any of the other game modes he played, like Arena and Constructed?
Okay. Yeah. So I did dabble in constructed, but I would say the vast majority of my Hearthstone time pre-battlegrounds was arena. I gave that mode my heart and my soul, and I felt like I got very little in return. So I was very, very disappointed when Battlegrounds came out. And as it hits, it has a live updating leaderboard. It has MMR. There's tournaments. It's just like, Jesus, I've been giving Arena my all this whole time. And, there are times where they would update the mode and just forget to put cards in. They would change offering rates without telling us. There wouldn't be any tournament support for it. There was a leaderboard after a very long time, but then some months it didn't get posted. Sometimes it was wrong. It would only be there after 30 runs. So to me, it was so obvious. Okay, I gotta jump ship here because it's clear to me that they have no intention to really keep support. Or I mean, they never really supported Arena, right? So they do not have an intention to really support this mode. So it was much painful because I loved playing Arena, but I just said, okay, no more because this is just going to keep getting worse.
Understandable. And currently, what's your favorite game outside of Hearthstone? You
Probably
don't
Marvel
need
Snap.
to. You don't need to stream it.
Yeah, no, just probably Marvel Snap.
Okay, sneaky, sneaky.
Yeah, I've been invited to Marvel Snap Twitch Rivals.
I
It's
know, I
uh,
know. When it got posted, I think 5 people sent it to me and speculating on lots and lots of different things. Like
oh,
why was educated Colin's not invited? Why I don't know.
right. Yeah, so the setup they have is sort of a noob and a pro. So Nicolina is an infinite player. I play Snap very casual. So the rule was that you would have to invite someone that wasn't a pro. Or I mean, it's Twitch rivals. It's not going to be like a hard rule or like 100% this or that. But it's entertaining, right? You have a pro, you have a noob, and then you make a team together, and you see what happens when you throw them at each other. So yeah, she would have definitely asked Collins if you could have two pros, but she needed a noob. It was like, hey, I know the rules. I've played Snap, but I'm obviously not a pro. So we form a team.
Nice. That's very good. But yeah, that makes sense. Um, and and of course, when you know all this after, it makes a lot more sense than just seeing people on the board and being like, without without context, it can be interpreted.
Exactly. It'd be very weird. Yeah, I'd be like,
Yes.
why does this guy get invited? Yeah, it's true.
Well, it felt a lot like Hearthstone crew was the whole Hearthstone crew. Not all, but there was some like more just Marvel Snap, but most of the players invited were also like former or current Hearthstone
Yeah.
players.
Yeah, it's still rivals. The goal is to pull good numbers on Twitch, of course. So, even if there are maybe more dedicated streamers, if they have less viewership, it's just that's how rivals works. It's just higher chance to get in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, do you meditate?
Yeah, I definitely used to do like very dedicated meditation, right? Do it every day. Right now, I count the Wim Hof breathing as meditation because I like that. Essentially, when you meditate, it's quite easy if you focus on your breath. So for me, something that is breath related, where I'm going to breathe in a very deliberate way, that has a meditative aspect to it. So I would call that my daily meditation, but there's nothing separate of that right now that I do.
Okay, good. Um, what's your daughter's favorite game?
Favorite game, hide and seek.
Oh, good. Who
Yes.
wins? Who wins?
She's not very good at it yet because she will tell me where she's going to hide. She's like, "Okay, Dad, now I'm gonna hide behind the door." So yeah, she's 2.5. The fun thing, of course, is that I pretend I don't find her a little bit, and then she'll help me, right? She'll be like, "No, Dad, I'm behind the door. I'm not outside." So, oh, here, okay. So that's the general dynamic. And then, when I hide, I try to make it somewhat obvious that she doesn't have to look too long.
Okay, good. So the question, it's probably one of your viewer. Can you ask Shady about stoicism?
Okay, sure. I would say that that was definitely a big influence. When I was in my early 20s, I came across Stoicism, I believe through Tim Ferriss. I don't know exactly, but I know a lot of people in that space. Sort of, people like to work on themselves. They're big into Stoicism, and the I guess the general idea, try not to butcher it too much, is to not really care too much about things that you cannot affect. So, which is great when you're playing Hearthstone for a living because you can get very upset at things you cannot affect when you get unlucky. But I suppose the Stoic sees the situation for what it is and doesn't really attach a value to it, right? This is good, this is bad. It's just, it is what it is, and we're going to work with it. Also understanding that um, things usually aren't as bad as they seem when, oh, what's the worst that can happen? Let me just live that experience. So something a Stoic might do is say, okay, let's say I would, lose my job. I would have to live at a very cheap way. I would have to eat very cheap food. I have to wear very cheap clothes, etc. To just do that and say, okay, is this the condition that I feared? It's fine. I can handle this, right? So that's a very stoic attitude going about things. And yeah, I think that at least for me, that's definitely helped me look at the world, look at my life to yeah, live a better life.
Okay, interesting. Last question. Do you like mashed potatoes?
My mom, but she's still around. I say used to mate because I generally don't eat my mom's mashed potatoes anymore. But she definitely made some very very good mashed potatoes. So yes, when I was growing up, those were delicious.
Okay, bonus question. Do you like chocolate?
Uh, yes, but not too much and not regularly. So um, let's say there's this chocolate with the praline, like the
Yeah.
yeah. At, I speak some French, so I know you're French Canadian, so
Yeah.
yeah, some words. But that I enjoy, but nothing too often, nothing overly. Because when I have too much, my stomach just gets upset. So I have to have just small quantities.
But I think it's like that for everyone. I think
Right, sure.
a lot
Well,
of
I mean,
chocolate can upset
mhm,
everyone's stomach.
but I'm talking, let's say it's Easter, I'll have like maybe one or two of those small eggs, and if I
Yeah,
have more, then my stomach gets upset. And I know a lot of people can move a lot more than that before they have any trouble.
yeah. It's the same for me. Like I don't eat chocolate, so it doesn't fit with my body at all. You know, that's one thing that just doesn't fit with my body.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? If it works for you, great. If it doesn't work for you, stay away from it. Because why do that to yourself? Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. We really appreciate you taking the time after your stream, your free time, your only free time in the day.
Well, today is a holiday, so today is less strict. No school for my daughter, so it's okay.
Ah, she could have like be running around. She could.
All right. Well, my wife is taking her for a day with grandparents, so
Ah,
they're off to go have some fun.
okay,
Uh,
that's really nice.
yeah, yeah, it's great. It's great. So it's like I try to go on those from time to time, but obviously with streaming, it's hard to just say, okay, this day I'm off, that day I'm off, etc. So,
Okay, good. Well, thank you for coming on the show. We really appreciate, and we hope you're gonna have a fantastic rest of your day.
well, thank you for having me, and likewise,
Thank you.
have a good one.
You too. Bye.